Hello, 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 my autonomous robotic organisms, and welcome to the very first episode of Beefsnake Nerdcast. I'm Bolter, and let me tell you, I've got a need for speed. So, at the request of my good friend and best boy, Malware Sculpt, go give him some love, I will be starting this podcast off on the right track, talking about the speed freaks, the Zoombots, the gassiest of all Transformers, and their home planet, Velocitron, the speed planet. A quick note about Transformers in general before we get into the meat of this roadworthy issue. Transformers, as a franchise, is quite broad. It's been trucking for something like 45 years. So, something to keep in mind is that it's a multiverse. It's kind of like Marvel that way. Characters, places, events, they can all be kind of similar, or even identical in some places, but they are in separate environments. But Bolter, I hear you asking, what does that have to do with a planet? Well, let's get the pedal to the metal on this issue. Velocitron was first seen in the Unicron Trilogy's entry, Transformers Energon, making its debut as one of the planets made by the weird-ass Alpha Q. Don't think about that name too much. All the planets were made unique, and Speed Planet's key feature was that it was absolutely covered in freeways. Fully formed, pristine roadways, as far as the optic could see. Weird? I mean, maybe, but Cybertron, the home planet of the Transformers, is entirely made of metal, so it's not all that out of place in this universe. In fact, it's, for some of them, quite a paradise, especially if you're a car transformer. Now, the most attention this trucker's nightmare got in Transformers Energon was an episode where the entire Autobot army, and it's big, decides to stop trying to save the universe for a weekend and has a road race. I mean, sure, let's forget about the Decepticons and a giant rampaging chaos god and burn rubber and friendly competition. Fun fact, the winner of that race was actually RC, a foreman for a Transformers race that basically consists of blue-collar workers. She's a badass biker robot with a badass energy bow. So yeah, girl power. Now surprisingly, this planet does survive the onslaught of Unicron, a giant planet-sized transformer god of chaos and destruction. Yep, that's a thing. It doesn't make any more significant appearances in that series, but it does make a very, very significant appearance in Transformers Cybertron, where our worlds are in danger! After the defeat of Unicron, the energy released caused a massive hole in space-time to form. Dubbed the Unicron Singularity, it actually threatened to swallow and destroy the entire galaxy. The only solution, according to, and I kid you not, a demigod guardian of space-time, was to find 4 items called Cyber Planet Keys. Turns out the old crazy clockwork robot with a sword was right. One of these keys was tracked down to Velocitron, a now colonized world full of Transformers calling themselves Velocitronians. Now these guys are not your bog-standard Transformers. All this time on their own planet caused them to develop their own cultures, values, and expectations, all of which revolving around family. I mean speed. Now the diplomatic process on Velocitron is remarkably simple. The fastest bot rules. If you're not first, you're last. All the bots on Velocitron are remarkably competitive. Everything they do is fast, even when they're in robot mode. They talk directly, they fight and move with speed in mind, and they settle basically all disputes with road races. No flyers allowed. Other Transformers find this intense, impatient, and obsessive when it comes to racing or speed. They tend to be a people of action, and unfortunately that leaves them with limited foresight. During the events of Transformers Cybertron, it was actually the Decepticons that rediscovered the planet first. I guess it was lost at some point. Transformers is a weird show. Megatron personally went down to the planet first to find the Cyber Planet Key, and get it however he saw fit. Joke's on him. Nobody, not even Override, the leader and racing champion of the planet, knows what the hell he's talking about. It has nothing to do with racing. Why the hell would they care? Now, of course, the Autobots aren't too far behind. And in a move of absolutely brilliant strategic planning by Optimus Prime, he sends down the hot-headed dumbass Hotshot and the anxiety attack wet blanket that is Red Alert to scout the planet. With orders of don't interact with the damn locals, even though we've been doing it on Earth for like 6 months, go find the Cyberplanet key. Yeah, that's gonna go well. Not even 5 minutes after getting their feet onto the damn planet, does Hotshot see a mugging occurring from those two guys in the series trying to pick on an old man and a kid, and immediately jumps into action, saving their lives and kicking ass, and interacting with the locals. Red Alert immediately goes into basically panic mode because Hotshot's a blithering dumbass. The rest of the time on Velocitron consists of Hotshot getting way too excited about this race culture all the time and kind of forgetting that they're trying to save the universe over and over again, and Red Alert being too ridden with anxiety to give a proper report to Optimus Prime about his partner being a moron. Eventually they get enough information out of the two people they rescued, Clocker, the young guy, and Breakdown, the old guy, to figure out that the Cyberplanet key is probably the cup for the electoral process of the planet, the Speedy of 500. Oh, wow, that's a name. Naturally, they go right over to Override and are like, hey, apparently your trophy is, gonna help us save the universe. Naturally, Override, being the leader of the hyper-competitive Velocitronian culture, based entirely about race and competition, and being an absolute boss bitch, just responds with, you want my trophy? Okay, win it from me. Hotshot, of course, naturally gets way too excited about this, and Red Alert gets way too panicky about this. Eventually, after Hotshot taking a lot of time to actually start trying to win this cup legitimately, and Red Alert sending reports that are the equivalent of faking static and being like, hold on, I think I got someone on the other line. I'll call you back, Optimus, bye! Optimus just gets sick of it and goes down to the planet himself to figure out what the hell is going on over there. When Optimus gets to the planet, he basically finds Hot Rod. I'm going to keep doing that, aren't I? He basically finds Hotshot doing the equivalent of Transformers juicing in a mechanics shop trying to get prepped for the Speedy of 500. Red Alert all but throws Hotshot under the bus for this and is like, I tried to stop him. He won't listen to me. He's obsessed. I'm right. Optimus is just about ready to shut the whole thing down, but Hotshot's able to talk him down and be like, whoa, hold on. I'm not just doing this for the race. Hotshot shows a surprising amount of foresight in this case, and is like, I'm not just doing this for the race, boss man. I'm doing this because, well, isn't this the way it should be done? We didn't just walk on Earth and start stomping all over the place asking for the Cyberplanet key. We tried to help, we got help from the locals. That's what I'm doing. Huh. I'm not going to say it very often, if ever again, but good job, Hotshot. After a bit of time to calm down and actually getting a decent explanation, Optimus endorses the idea of joining the Speedy of 500, and actually enters himself. Actually, a lot of Autobots end up joining. Optimus is a fire truck, for the record, so, yeah, that's gonna go fast. Landmine joins, and Landmine's a bulldozer. Oh, boy, we're off to a good start. The two guys they picked up on Velocitron, Clocker and Breakdown, they end up joining. They've got a little better shot. One of them's a very sleek-looking car, and the other one's a dragster. So, okay, that's pretty good. And of course, Hotshot himself joins up, and Red Alert is basically running mechanics. He's a doctor, by the way. I guess a mechanic? It's a blurred line, but essentially that's what they are in Transformers. So, we have a bunch of Autobots in the Speedy of 500. But what have the Decepticons been up to? So you remember those two guys who were trying to beat up Clocker and Breakdown I mentioned earlier? Those are the two guys for basically the series. They get conscripted by Starscream. Yeah, that's Starscream. He's everywhere. Their names are Ransack and Crumplezone. Ransack is the tiny, fast one that turns into a motorcycle, and Crumplezone is the big, dumb one that turns into a very large, kind of weird three-wheeled jet-looking thing. It's got wheels. It's not a jet, but it's hard to explain. It's a weird-looking car. It's got 3 wheels. They're idiots. They're like the Jesse and James of Transformers Cybertron. I think they actually blast off at one point. I find them hilarious, by the way. But they are absolute bumblebots. And they get conscripted to basically cause trouble and be a hindrance and be kind of dumb muscle for Megatron. Dumb muscle is not a fair point. They're not very strong. They're just kind of dumb and helpful. But not for the right reasons. One of the best things they do to actually hedge the bets for the Decepticons during the Speedia 500 is they conscript a guy named Dirt Boss. Dirt Boss is a big, aggressive, very competitive, very angry monster truck. And he'll do anything to win. He will shoot you in the back, he will run you over, he will leave you to die, as long as he gets that trophy. The thing is, they're tricking him into this. If he ever finds out, he's gonna shoot them. Oh, man, why did they have to get a wild card like that involved? The Speedia was dangerous enough as it was. This arc of Transformers Cybertron is remarkably long. Or at least it feels very long. At least very monotonous. Because it's a lot of just, get ready for the big race. Oh boy, the big race. I hope we're ready for the big race. What'll the Decepticons pull during the big race? It's like wacky races. All sorts of weird, dumb, like anime bullshit goes on during this arc of the show. And I quite frankly can't remember a lot of it just because so much of it blended together. There's, trickery and unfair play from the Decepticons. There's the Autobots desperately trying to win, but also, doing noble sacrifices so that Hotshot, the guy who's definitely going to win, who's got the best bets of winning because he's been trying so hard, gets to do it. But it's a long ass arc. The point is, because of course Override was racing. I think that's the only candidate I didn't mention. She actually takes the race. Yeah, I'm spoiling it. So she remains leader of Velocitron. The Autobots lose. The Decepticons lose. Override maintains her crown. But, because of what she's seen over the course of the race, she's seen the nobility of the Autobots, how much they're willing to help each other, and how much they're willing to play fair, even if it means they'll lose. And what she's seen out of the Decepticons, or at least the Velocitronians working for the Decepticons, she's actually kind of impressed by how the Autobots operate. So she wants to actually help them out with this, and at least give them the trophy, and be like, damn, you guys did a good job. Now, naturally, Megatron moves in during the award ceremony and tries to snag the Cyberplanet key. Turns out, I think it was the Speedia 5, I want to say Piston Cup, but I know that's wrong. The Speedia 500 trophy is, of course, the Cyberplanet key. Megatron moves in to snatch it as soon as the award ceremony goes off. This royally pisses off Override. And she decides to join the Autobots just basically to spite Megatron. Also, fuck that guy for stepping on all our cultural traditions and the nobility of the race. So she gets pissed and just joins rank with the Autobots. Ransack and Crumplezone very hastily beat a retreat to the Decepticon side, and Dirt Boss just kind of fucks off somewhere. I don't even remember what happens to him. He just disappears. And the tables are set. We have one Velocitronian on the Autobot side. Clocker and Breakdown stay on Velocitron, which is fine. One's a little young, one's a little too old. That's kind of how they justify it. But Ransack and Crumplezone, the absolute buffoons that they are, join up with Megatron and Starscream, who very clearly think they're idiots. And that's where it goes from there. because of how early the Velocitronians join the game, there's not much they get to do, and they kind of lose relevance as the series goes on. Stuff happens to them. There's not a lot of Decepticons, so Ransack and Crumplezone have a lot of time to bumble about. Crumplezone actually has a near-death experience caused by these creatures called scrap metals on Cybertron, and turns into a ghost, and then gets reformatted into like a new body, and is kind of arbitrarily called Dark Crumplezone. He's not any more scary or anything like that. It just, they gave him like Guy Fieri decals and called it a day. It looks okay, but these two just kind of bumble around for the rest of the series and cause trouble. I think they get defeated by the human children's more than once, and that's just embarrassing for anybody, so that's what they're up to. Override, on the other hand, gets a lot more to do, mostly because she's a leader of one of these colony plants. Those guys tend to get a little more attention, because they're kind of on the same leader scale as Optimus Prime. Not quite, but sort of the same. She ends up bonding with the human child Lori, and they kind of form like a sibling relationship with like a cool tomboy big sister and the little sister trying to figure things out. And Override actually takes a lot of steps to keep Lori safe when she's in potentially risky environments, like when they're on Jungle Planet, for example. That's a planet I'll get to later. She also ends up in this weird like grudge match relationship with the other female Transformer in the series, the only other female Transformer in the series, the Decepticon Thunderblast, who is the ditziest fembot I have ever seen, and is unfortunately proportioned. I swear to God, that robot is anatomically correct, and it's not okay. At all. Less about that. Yeah, Override's actually pretty chill. She gets a lot to do, she gets some good fights in, and she's like, they struggle to keep her relevant, but eventually there's so many Autobots in this series, eventually she unfortunately falls to the wayside by the time they get to like the last planet. She's cool though, I like having her around, and it's always be like, oh yeah, Override's around, that's awesome. But that's about as much as she gets, until at least the very end. Speaking of the end, Speed Planet actually survives the Unicron Singularity, and, well, they have an election to see a race election, because that's how they do things, to see who's the new leader of Velocitron. It's a close race between Override, Dirt Boss, and Hotshot, who is no longer a fast-as-fuck car, and is now a armored personnel carrier. That's a long story. Yeah, Hotshot wins. As a tank. So now they got Hotshot, that Hotshot, in charge of the entire damn planet. Oh, boy. Yeah, I guess if it had to be anybody, it could have been him. But oh, boy. Now, Velocitron's one of those planets that made such an impact during Transformers Cybertron that it's actually managed to creep into a lot of other Transformers licenses and universes. The Aligned Continuity, for example, Velocitron shows up as a colony planet where when the Transformers left Cybertron, because Cybertron was dying and need to recharge, all the life had to leave it. The Autobots stumbled upon it by chance when they are traveling on their ship, the Ark. They get there and they don't really mesh with the Velocitronians too well, and they eventually are asked to leave. Unfortunately, the group known as the Star Seekers, who I don't have very much information on. This all takes place in a couple of books, which I haven't read all of them. The Star Seekers arrive on Velocitron asking where are the Cybertronians, because they managed to follow the Autobot ship's location to there, and accidentally bring the Autobot Decepticon war to Velocitron, as some factions agreed more with the Decepticon ideals on Velocitron, and others agreed with Optimus Prime's ideals on Velocitron. They accidentally re-Civil Warred a completely separate planet. Whoops. Now in the G1 comic continuity, which manages to creep its tendrils into absolutely every facet of Transformers all the damn time. Sorry, the comic continuity published by IDW. It is tied to the Titan cities, like Metroplex and Fortress Maximus. And I'm not entirely sure how. I haven't read the comics, if I'm honest with you. But I do know it is a colony planet, like it is in the Cybertron continuity. It was lost, like in the Cybertron continuity. And it was rediscovered at some point. How that ties into the Titan cities, I'm not entirely sure. I know the comics are phenomenal, though, so I can definitely recommend them off of pure peer reviews of people I know who really enjoy those comics. Check it out if you think it's cool. Velocitron makes a very small cameo as well in the animated continuity, which is still beloved by a lot of fans to this day, myself included. One of the supreme super weapons that were used by the Autobots to win the war against the Decepticons was shot down over Velocitron, and that's how they lost its commander and the super weapon itself. The commander was Override Major. Which designation the supreme weapon had, I unfortunately do not remember that. I don't even know who shot it down. But it does have that appearance. You can get that information out of the Transformers Animated Almanacs. One of the two. There's only 2 books. Not that, that information is hugely important, as the animated timeline was cut tragically short. I'm still crying over that, okay? So, bit of a short episode, as this is kind of a pilot tester episode, and there's not a lot of information on Speed Planet. Velocitron, personally, I find very cool, but it's not the coolest place I can think of, mostly because the racing obsessiveness and the amount of hyper-fixated A-type competitiveness in the planet and the native Transformer population kind of puts me off the place, honestly. It's not the worst location in Transformers, though. That would be Earth. Thank you for tuning in to Beefsnake Nerdcast. I've been Bolter, and thank you again to Malware Skull for picking this episode topic. If you want to go check him out on social media, he does beautiful artwork. He does sculptures. He does 40K paintings. He's handsome as fuck. Go check him out and give him a lot of love. Tell him I sent you. In fact, while you're there, why don't you check out my stuff as well? I'm on social medias under Beefsnake Nerdcast or something similar. And go check out the YouTube channel, where I will have an archive channel of similar topics that I pick out of the mind map, put into playlists for your convenience, seeing as not all the mind map topics are the same. For example, next episode will be about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. So, thank you for coming to the Nerdcast. I'll see you next time. Man, how did I get through this whole episode without saying ka-chow once?